You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, we got a couple of places to go today, but I want to start, and I know you have something to offer on this, the fact that they've announced Michel Sabia as the new head of Hydro-Quebec. So, first of all, I will tell you the thing that maybe I should say didn't surprise me the most is the PQ wasted little time. Pascal Bérubé came out today and said, this guy to head up Hydro, he's not nationalist enough, as if.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Well, a lot of controversy surrounding this appointment, and it's sort of gone down to the level of we don't need a money guy, we need an electricity guy. Okay, and Mr. Sabia's reputation precedes him, and he is a very accomplished administrator. And I suspect one of the reasons he was named to this job is as a counterbalance to the incredibly growing, how can I put it, energy minister, Pierre Fitzgibbon. Mm-hmm. I think he is a guy. First of all, he reportedly has a very, very volatile temper. And he doesn't sound like a guy who's going to be overawed or take any guff. But I think beyond all of that, guys, I think the fact is Francois Legault is in desperate need of a legacy. Adopting legislation that snatches hijabs off of women's heads if they want to be in the public service, or allows inspectors to come in without a warrant and grab your computer if they think you weren't speaking French. That's just a bloody piece of meat that he threw to his base. But the fact is, he has made it clear, and he gets all kinds of emotional over this. He wants to essentially double the capacity and the efficiency of Hydro-Quebec. Clearly, Sophie Brochu, the former head of Hydro, didn't see it that way. I know she says there was no conflict with the government, but boom, all of a sudden she's gone. And here is Michael Sabia, who, remember, when he was head of the case, he left. Not under a cloud, but there was some concern that perhaps he didn't see eye to eye with Francois Legault over where the pension fund should be going. So he goes, works in Ottawa, Chrystia Freeland's deputy minister. All of a sudden, he's back. So I don't think he came back for the fun of it. He certainly doesn't need the money. So he was probably offered what he would consider an appropriate amount of control, given what Legault's plan is. All that said, however, it's not just experts, academic experts who are saying this is not the guy for the job. Radcan is reporting, and once again, it's all anonymous because it's from within Hydro-Quebec, but there is a real concern this is not the guy that they need, especially with the plan that Legault wants to have carried out. He wants to basically transform Hydro-Quebec, excuse the pun. But all that said, is Michael Sabia the guy to do it? This is not a matter of raising money. This is a fundamental change in a very technical culture. It's going to be a change in certainly infrastructure. A lot of big decisions, a lot of big money decisions will have to be made, but those decisions are going to have very fundamental effects on all of our lives. So, I mean, it's on the one hand, it seems a bit political, as I say. He might be a counterbalance to my good friend Sparky Fitzgibbon, but on the other hand, is he really equipped to sort of steer the ship along the course that Francois Legault was so obviously charted?
When you just said, Jim, about working with Pierre Fitzgibbon and that they promised Michael Sabia, whatever, a certain amount of control, my ears sort of perked up. Said, how can you have any amount of control with someone who basically steamrolls people below him? In the case of Pierre Fitzgibbon, he's running Hydro-Quebec. So how much possible control or influence can someone like Michael Sabia have? Well,
let's put it this way. Michael Sabia, it's not his first rodeo, and I'll add, it's not his first bulldozer. This guy has got more flight time dealing with, high-level executives and making major decisions than Pierre Fitzgibbon, with all due respect to Mr. Fitzgibbon. And let me say one thing that I would respectfully submit may be on Natasha's mind right now, but she's not saying it out loud. Of course, the other big bonus that Michael Sabia has is that he's not a woman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be another this kind of punch in the shoulder. Let's get this done. Blah blah blah. I'm sorry. That is a part of how this system works. But yeah, listen, if it happens that Pierre Fitzgibbon does decide to have a game of chicken in an alleyway in his bulldozer versus Michael Sabia in his bulldozer, Francois Legault, quite frankly, is still going to come up the winner because, let's face it, Pierre Fitzgibbon has not been a thorn in Francois Legault's side, but he's certainly been a magnet for a lot of headlines that this government didn't need. And maybe this is a signal to Mr. Fitzgibbon that, you know what, everyone play nice now. I have a plan. Let's have no more nonsense, and we'll be very, very collegial about this and get this done. I may be completely wrong. This may be the biggest mistake, perhaps a fatal mistake on the part of Francois Legault politically. But, right now the reaction is certainly within the opposition who want to have him subject to public hearings, and that's not going to happen. Certainly on the part of academia that deals with energy, and certainly within Hydro-Quebec, there's a real concern this is not the guy for the job, which is, quite frankly, not a make-or-break thing. It's not the first time change has not been welcomed by large corporations, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
I have to tell you, my perception out of the gate was that this was a new bromance. Like, I was like, oh, here we go. They're good. They're going to, bond together. The Three Musketeers get this job done. That was, but I don't know enough about Michael Sabia. So evidently I've got the wrong perception here.
Well, don't worry about it, Natasha. I haven't sat down for coffee with any of these guys, but the fact is they have made it clear just from their persona that they are very focused, perhaps in an earlier age, as I said, hard-headed. That may be a good thing, but even if one cancels the other out and they find they have to cooperate, like the nightmare scenario right now is if Michael Sabia comes in and he's gone in 6 months, because then Francois Legault's credibility, such as it is, just got run over by a bulldozer. If Mr. Fitzgibbon acts up a lot, maybe there'll be a little chat, and maybe, let's try and be friends. But, in the end, Francois Legault determines who's the energy minister.
Fair enough. Listen, I will tell you, I interviewed Michael Sabia years ago, and he was just before he left, I think. And the one problem I have is he's a Red Sox fan, James. So there is that issue.
And apparently he's not a nationalist either. So
there you go. So those two things, two strikes right there. Yeah,
there you go.
Let me talk about this, and I don't know what you're alluding to here. You say Pierre Poilievre has dropped the Trudeau bombshell. We're not going to believe it. What are we talking about?
The third link?
So, no, yeah, exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that because you and I, the three of us were talking yesterday. And as we were talking, this press conference was going on. And I only saw this like a few minutes after I got off the phone with you guys. But essentially, Pierre Poilievre, who was reacting, of course, to the decision by David Johnston yesterday, but he was also meeting with Legault. So he does a scrum after meeting with Legault, and he basically says that Justin Trudeau, as well as the woke Bloc Québécois, the Bloc Wokiste, as he calls them, basically pulled the plug on the tunnel, on the third link. And I didn't see the press conference, guys, so I can't tell you how long the very pregnant, you could hear a pin drop pause was before someone said, well, what do you mean? Because we've discussed this issue many times, and Justin Trudeau was not a main player in this. But he's basically saying, the Liberals are waging war against cars. If I'm Prime Minister, you're going to have cars everywhere. We're going to have, automobile infrastructure. So after they regained their composure, I guess the scrum left Mr. Poilievre and ran over to Francois Legault and said, listen, did Justin Trudeau, was he responsible for losing the third link? And Francois Legault's answer was unequivocal, not at all. And I mentioned this, and it's very apropos because I was listening to you guys, the segment on Trudeau's numbers versus other prime ministers. And some of the callers said, maybe his numbers are so good because of who he's up against. And I think this is a perfect example of that.
That's an interesting take, yeah. The idea that, if it was someone else, things might be a little bit different. Although, Jim, the interesting part of this is every time there's a poll, at least lately, Pierre Poilievre, the Conservatives find themselves ahead of the Liberals federally.
Absolutely. And whereas I always used to say, their support is stacked up in the West, you look at the regional breakdowns right now, and if Justin Trudeau calls an election this fall, he is handing Pierre Poilievre a minority government on a silver platter.
Well, then again, now that we know there are going to be public hearings, they're not going to end until the end of October. I think the thinking maybe has changed on that there won't be an election by October. What do you think?
Well, you're not talking to a guy
I know you never thought there would
be an election this year.
I know. Fair enough. That's Tom Mulcair's call.
Want to squeeze in this last one because it ties right into your quad. Want to get a quick
Sure,
get a
yeah.
quick
So,
comment on this.
okay, we talked about this $30,000 hike, 30% raise that everyone's getting.
Yes.
I think they thought they could ram this through, but now we have a move by Quebec Solidaire to
It's
say,
for the
hey,
children.
hang on, hang off 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's an extremely smart move.
Yeah.
Because that way, go ahead, vote for it, okay? And then we'll let the elector decide whether or not that was a good idea. And if they think it's a good idea, if they believe, as you do, Mr. Legault, that the only way, you want to get men and women to raise a family, have to have $130,000 to do it, they'll vote for you. And if they disagree, I guess they won't vote for you. But I really think this is a really clever way to cut the Gordian knot and, frankly, throw Francois Legault a lifesaver. Because if you can put this off, I don't think anyone is going to stand up in the National Assembly and say, no, I want my money now. Because that would not be, politically correct.
Yeah, except for maybe the Liberals, right?
Yeah, I think that they hit the target on this one.
Yeah, except for maybe the Liberals who kind of like, well, we have to think about this because the PQ and Quebec Solidaire apparently are on board, but Liberals not yet.
I got to tell you guys, the Liberals better come up with something fast, i.e. a leader, because right now they are an increasingly dwindling dot in everyone's rearview mirror.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Matt.